Hello students, this is CA Vishal Jain, your faculty for ACCA FR and SBR paper. Guys, today I am here to discuss with you the top 10 mistakes that a student does in the ACCA financial reporting exams, okay, which you need to be careful about. Now, I have identified these mistakes based on the common queries of my students or the mistakes that a student has done in the mock exam that I have conducted, okay. Now, these are the points which you already know, okay. I'm not discussing anything new with you. You already know this point. Then why I'm making a video on that? The only intent here is to make a bookmark in your mind, okay, so that when you're solving questions and which has any of these points, so that your mind should trigger immediately that, okay, Vishal sir told this point to be careful here, to be careful here. So that's what is the intent. That's what is the intent, okay. So you might feel that you already know these points, but still watch this video till the end to make a bookmark in your mind, okay. Now let us discuss one by one. Investment property. Now the investment property, as you know, the subsequently it can be measured at cost model or fair value model. If it is under cost model, we definitely continue to depreciate the asset, but if it's under fair value model, we do not charge the depreciation on the investment property. Rather, any fair value gain or loss is recognized in P&L, not in OCI, in P&L, okay. The gain or loss, the revaluation gain or loss for property, plant and equipment used to transfer to OCI, but the revaluation gain or loss on investment property will be transferred to P&L. Now, non-current assets held for sale. If there is any non-current asset which is reclassified to a non-current asset held for sale, then in that case, after reclassification, the depreciation ceases on the asset. The depreciation ceases on the asset. Depreciation ceases. Revenue. If you are recognizing a revenue over a period of time, meaning thereby it is a long-term contract, okay, going for 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, okay. Now, and you have to recognize the revenue over a period of time. In that case, assess whether the contract is profitable, loss making, or it is uncertain whether it will be profitable or loss making. Then what the revenue recognition will be different in all these cases. Now, if it is profitable, then what you have to do, recognize revenue and cost of sale normally using the measure of progress, okay. Using the measure of progress, normally you have to do it off. Now, if it is a loss making contract, here comes the main part. If it is loss making contract, definitely again revenue and cost of sales you will recognize normally. Okay. But additionally you have to recognize a provision for the future losses. You have to recognize a provision and add that provision to the cost of sales. So journal entry will become cost of sales account debit to provision for onerous contracts. Okay. Now, if it is uncertain whether this contract will be profitable or a loss making, then recognize revenue to the extent of costs incurred. Okay. So please keep this point in your mind. Please keep these points in your mind, guys. Okay. Now, group accounts. As we discussed that if in case of group accounts, all the assets and liabilities of subsidiary company will be acquired at its fair value on the date of acquisition. Right. Now, as per IAS 38, if any company incurs any research cost, that is transferred to P&L, right? But here, while discussing group accounts, I discussed that if subsidiary company has incurred any cost on research of any project, okay, and if that research has some value to the parent company, then the parent company will recognize the research cost incurred by the subsidiary company at its fair value on the date of acquisition. Now, after acquisition, if subsidiary further incurs any research cost, that will be transferred to P&L. Okay. Now, pre-acquisition research cost recognized at its fair value on date of acquisition if it is of some value to the parent company. If the question is silent, if the question is not mentioning whether it has some value or it doesn't have any value to the parent company, then assume that the parent company does have value for that asset. Okay. Now, customer lists of subsidiary company, okay, we will recognize it at fair value on date of acquisition. Okay. But if the question says that we cannot reliably calculate fair value, then do not recognize customer list. Okay. Because if you are unable to calculate fair value itself, at what value you will recognize the customer list. Okay. So if you can calculate the fair value, yes, recognize the customer list. If you are unable to calculate fair value, do not recognize the customer list. Okay. Now, in P&L. Do not forget, guys, this is a very common mistake I've seen. They just calculate total profit after tax, then they write other comprehensive income and they write total comprehensive income. Till here they calculate everything correctly, but they tend to forget to do the allocation of the profit after tax to parent and NCI and total comprehensive income to parent and NCI. We discussed in class multiple times that you have to do the allocation of profit to parent and NCI, to owners of the company and NCI. Now, how you have to do the allocation? First of all, you have to calculate what is the amount allocated to NCI using the calculation method that we discussed, okay? And whatever is the balance will be for the parent. Whatever is the balance will be for the parent, okay? Now, when you dispose of a subsidiary, now there are gains or losses that you have to record. Now, student gets confused, sir, where to record which gain or loss? Now, in the SFS of parent, you will recognize gain is equals to sale price minus the cost of investments, or you can say carrying amount of investments. Rather than cost, you can say carrying amount of investments. Sale price minus cost, carrying amount of investments in the SFS of the parent company. But in the CFS, in the group financial statements, this is what you will do. Sale price minus net assets, in the bracket, net assets plus goodwill plus NCI on the date of acquisition. Okay, so this is what you will recognize in group FS, and this is what you will recognize in separate FS of the parent company. Any gain or loss to be recognized in the subsidiary books? No. Okay, now unrealized profit. I have seen that unrealized profit from subsidiary parent, students are able to handle it nicely, though that they don't have any challenge in that, okay? But in the case of associate, they struggle. So let me tell you, if the parent company has sold to associate, then who has earned the profit? Parent company. So reduce the profits of parent company, that is group retained earnings. Now, who has the inventory? Associate. So are we recognizing the inventory of associate? No. So it is reflected where? Investment in associate. So entry will be group RE account debit to investment in associate. But if associate is selling to the parent company, who has earned the profit? Associate company. So we have to reduce the share of profit of associate. Okay. Now, are we recognizing that inventory? Yes, because the parent company has the inventory, right? So we'll reduce the inventory. Now understand, this share of profit will not impact the cost of investments. That again, student make a mistake. Okay. Let's suppose share of profit from the associate is 20 and this unrealized profit is 5. Okay, so in P&L definitely you will show 15, but when you are calculating the value of investments to be reported in SOFP, you will add only 20. Is that clear, everyone? Okay, now SPL, you will add unrealized profit to the cost of sales in this case, and you will reduce from share of profit of associate. Okay, now how to calculate? Again, a mistake. A student tends to forget to multiply the associate holding percentage. See, in case of subsidiary, we adjust the whole of the unrealized profit, but in case of associate, we have to multiply the unrealized profit multiplied by the whole associate holding percentage. Okay, so do not forget to adjust for this one. Okay, the next point, financial instruments. Effective interest rate is calculated on the net carrying amount, while the coupon rate is calculated on the face value. Again, a student makes a mistake here. Okay, they get confused. Sir, on which to apply effective interest rate, on which to apply coupon rate? So coupon rate will be applied on the face value of the asset or a liability, but effective interest rate will be applied on the net carrying amount. Okay, now income taxes. Current tax, how will you calculate? Provision for tax for the current year plus any debit balance minus any credit balance. Okay, now the question will have either debit balance or credit balance. So if it's the debit balance, add to the current tax. If it's a credit balance, reduce from the current tax. Okay, revaluation gain, tell me where is it recognized? In OCI. So any deferred tax impact for the revaluation gain will also be recognized in OCI. Now forex. Now, when the question comes for the forex to calculate unrealized gain or loss on the forex, then the student makes a mistake in converting the foreign currency to functional currency. Okay, so please be careful. Only one tip that I will give you: just identify which currency is stronger currency, which currency is weaker currency. Okay, if you are converting from stronger to weaker if converting from stronger to weaker, then divide. If you are converting from weaker to stronger, then multiply. Okay, this is just a suggestion. It because on the basis of question, this logic can fail also, but this is just a suggestion. But be very careful. Only thing what I want to tell here is be very careful when you are converting from foreign currency to functional currency. Okay, theory, do not ignore theory, guys, do not ignore theory. Okay, now how you can handle theory is not by reading theory again and again and again. No, it will not help. Rather, what you do, solve questions. Okay, solve questions of the theory. Okay, solve questions, it will give you better clarity over the topics, how exactly the questions from the theory will come. Okay, if you try to mug up all the theory, it will not help. If you try to read the question and solve as many questions as you can for the theory, it will really help. Now, generic point. Okay, so all the calculation for section C, this generic point is for section C. Okay, now so all the calculations, even if the question is not asking to show any working notes, please show the working notes. Why? Because if you are showing the working notes and at one place, even if you are making a mistake, so definitely you will not get the marks there. But if you are using that number anywhere else in the question, okay, you will get the marks there using the own figure rule if you are showing the working notes. Okay, so if you want to get step marking or marks under the own figure rule, please show working notes. Okay, now 10 is presentation. Guys, be very careful. If the question is asking the answer in absolute amounts in section A and section B, okay, then write the full amount. Let's suppose the answer is 27.5 million, okay, and answer is asking in absolute amount. So what we will write? So this is how you will write. Okay, if the question is asking in thousands, so what you will write? This way. If the question is asking in millions, what you will write? This way. If the question is asking to nearest decimals, let's suppose 2 decimals, so how will you write? So this way. So be very careful, read the question carefully, guys. I will tell you one thing. I would like to highlight this point here, guys. Spend a half a minute more in reading the question properly. Okay, that will give you a lot of clarity over the question and you will be able to attempt the right answer. Okay, so please read the question very carefully, especially for section A and section B. Okay, one mistake and everything gone. So please read the question carefully, my dear friends. Okay, now one last suggestion, that you have your exams on whenever you have your exams, understand, guys, at least 2 hours before the exam, please stop studying. Your mind is a generator, okay, is a machine. So if you relax at least 2 hours before, it will work to its effective level in the exam. Okay, so please stop studying at least 2 hours before the exam. Don't have any chit chat with your friends pertaining to the questions or the queries that he has. No, don't become fully selfish. It's good to be selfish at times. Okay, become fully selfish and don't talk to anyone, listen to music or whatever you like, but don't discuss anything pertaining to FR paper. Okay, so that's what my session. All the best for your exams. Chak de fatte, bye bye.